Howdy. I'm here today to give you a bit of a chat about pains, burns. You know the type? You know those ones where you're just sitting there, mind your own business on your computer, or you're watching the television, or you've just laid down to go to bed and all of a sudden you get one that bites, ouch, on the arm, and then one on the hand, then one down on the foot, around the toes region. And then sometimes you get this burn that happens right where the sun don't shine. And yeah, it's not pleasant. And a lot of people go, how do they do that? How do they do that? We should be asking that question, shouldn't we? How on earth do they do that? You know, the last time I had that little sensation, I thought, I'm just going to go and check it out. And I've spoken about this before. This is not new. But I'm telling you again anyway, because I think it's kind of important. This nasty little piece here, less than a millimetre across, this here is called a micro strand or a micro ribbon. It's not nano size because we can see it with our eyeballs and a 200x microscope. So this here is less than a millimetre. Fine enough to float on the air as dust, and yeah, it's that when the other day I was just sitting there minding my own business, as I said, and I got this burn right about here on the top of the hand, and so I was like, well, where'd that come from, huh? And so I grabbed my little microscope, as I often do, and I whacked my hand under there, and I started to feel, and I started to see this. This is actually what I started to see. If we just put this here, check that out, mate. Now, what is it? It's another one of my micro ribbons, nano things that are pumped out the back of. They're probably made of nano strands, but they're micro in size. And these things, once hit with EMF, what can they do? Well, they can heat up, they can vibrate, they can produce electricity. They act as an antenna, highly conductive little numbers. What would you call them? Carbon-based, metal-doped, micro strands, or something like that. That's what I'd call them anyway. Alright, so that's what we're talking about, right there. Now, you can sort of see they're strandy, they're sort of flat, and they twist and shit as they do their thing. And I think that's how the vibration can happen. They can get hit with EMF and they can flex, or they can actually vibrate and produce sound, or heat, because heat is vibration, is it not? And so this is possibly how that works. So EMF, pulsed EMF or constant EMF will get you different effects, or different frequencies will give you different effects, I imagine. But or whether you pulse, like whether you modulate it. So I think to have it affected, to have it be, because certain antenna sizes obviously need certain frequencies. But anyway, I digress. This is the little bastard I found on the back of my hand, right? And I guess these kind of things, they can get more nasty. Oh, I should have had this organised. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, they can even do things like this. They can create little burns and stuff, right? And some of us have experienced that. That's not a laser. That is simply a highly conductive element that has been heated via EMF on the surface of the skin, and that is why they can't just burn you anywhere. They can't just write their name in you unless they get a laser or something. So I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist. I'm saying, in my case, this is what I've been facing with. This is what I tend to face. I have seen them light things on fire with lasers, but that could have been the same basic principle. It could have been EMF hitting microstrands sitting inside a log, which set the log on fire. That's what I saw. And yeah, that's all possible. Now, these little nasty things, they get in everywhere. So they go up in our noses and stuff, and they can go into our chest, or they can, when we breathe them in, and induce like a burn in here, and then, or in our lungs, or they can go, we eat them, you know, they're in our water. I've seen it in packaged water, like water, $10 a litre, you know, this stuff. And like I've gone, not $10 a litre, $1 a litre, $10 for 10 litres. And then I've gone and chucked some of it under the microscope, and there's one of these black strands wriggling around, right? So, well, not wriggling around, I shouldn't give you the wrong idea. I have seen videos about that stuff, but no, it was pretty sedentary. It was just sitting there doing its thing like this. And so, essentially, those strands, as I've shown, they're everywhere. That heated up, that's what I was feeling on my skin. And of course, removing it removes the pain. So now, earlier today, I was just sitting there minding my own business, and another attack occurred. And of course, this one was one of their favourite ones, because Masons love the butthole. My butt, obviously, something right up in there was burning, and they do it all the time. And I've actually it's a mess up there because of what they've done. I've got burns and little blisters and stuff because they do it pretty much every day. And essentially, the best thing to do is to wash. But I thought today I'm not going to, and if I feel that, I'm going to do something else. And this is the result of that. And so I went in there and I got myself one of these little numbers. These ones, little earbuds. Wet it, and I crouched down and gave it a bit of a wipe around the area which was causing the burn. Not only did the burn stop completely, but I found these little buggers in there. See this black fibre here and here? Let me just move that across in case you aren't seeing that. Let's put it into here, yeah. And not only that, so yeah, I found this and this. It's a bit of a mess here, but there's some of that. That's going to happen, considering it's your butthole, right? Okay, so, and it wasn't on the entrance, it was a fair way in, so... but yeah, I managed to pull out 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one little one over here as well. There's a little S here, but that's one of the other ones. So 5, look, all in there at once. Hey, so how does that happen? Well, you're either consuming it, or it's somehow crawling up there. I'm not sure. Some people might say that we produce them. I don't believe we produce them. I believe some of this can be self-building. I have seen that happen. And self-assembling is definitely something that has been mentioned. That would be when you have nano-based stuff that will attract to itself and build ribbons, and that's how it works. They go from nanoparticles, and then they attract each other through like an ionic charge, and they'll just snap together, and they'll create strands, and then those strands will snap together, and they'll create ribbons. And this could be what we're seeing. So when they are they spraying these complete ribbons? Or are they spraying the dust and then it gets moisture, and then the moisture makes them join together and they build strands, and that's why you get all these different sized ones? I'm not sure. Speculations. I've seen stuff in substances before where I've added hot water to it, so it's gone from a crystal into hot water, and the dust has assembled. I've watched these strands form, so in hot water, and they form quickly. Like, so in an aqueous solution, that dust with, say, dust that you maybe picked up outside or off the table or something, with a thing, and you'll put them into hot water, and it'll swirl it around, try and find the strands, and there'll be strands in there already. But if you find some that doesn't, you'll find so many strands, but there's also the dust in there, and just have a look at it 20 minutes later after you put it in the hot water. And in some cases you find that stuff's built. And there's different stuff. Stuff builds straight, some of it builds like strands, squiggly. And so I think the straight stuff tends to be more magnetic. Whereas the other stuff uses some other form of self-assembly, which I think is ionic charge. Yeah, and particularly more aggressive under electrical fields or magnetic fields. But I think more electrical fields. I've even seen these things form very rapidly when applying an EMP. Like anything like that, a stopgap. So just the ambient electricity in the air seemed to make them form quicker. So that's interesting. Anyway, I digress again. What I think I wanted to get at was these little buggers, these little strands that we find, right? These are quite foul, and these are what creates our sensations of burning on the skin. There may be other things, but this, in my experience, these little bastards, these are what are causing those to occur. All right. And so I had a lot more to say. I've done this video 3 times, and each time the audio got screwed, and my audio is still screwed on my laptop. I'm not sure what's happening. And so I had a lot more to say than this. But I think that's basically, I've done it 3 times, so I've just gotten more and more concise each time, unfortunately. And I think that's it. I think I'll leave it at that for now. And I hope that's helped people understand. Oh yeah, the other angle that I was going on was that, yeah, these things get on your feet, and that's why you get burns on your feet, because there it's all over the ground. And then if they're floating around, they'll just land on your skin, and then they'll be able to fire them up again, right? And so, yeah, essentially, they're foul, and they are little fibers. They aren't laser burn. They are EMF activated fibers, and it's the same way that they make your feet vibrate. If your feet vibrate after you walk outside, go and wash your feet and see if they still vibrate. I think you'll find that they vibrate at least a lot less than they did prior to the wash. Same thing, if you get a burn, try brushing the area off, and then you might not get that burn again. But usually this is floating in our air, in our scene so much, right, in our general vicinity, that we that we get covered in them again. So you have a wash at night, and then you go lay down, and this shit's all through your bedding, it's all through your carpet, it's all through your surfaces. Anything you move, it's like it's in the air again, right? That's how much of this shit is around, especially after spraying and stuff. They spray and then it's in the air for days. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope that's helped people to understand. No, so when you get a burn, get yourself a magnifying glass, or a jeweler's thing. What do you call it? Or a microscope, and you'll probably, most likely, if you locate where that happened, you'll find one of these little bastards. All right. Peace out.